we wait for others to join, it's time. So thank you so much to our speakers for joining. So let's just, and Mr. Abdullah, just so I clarify once more, apologies for the confusion or the misconception. The proper poster was, circulated. Thank you so much for joining in.
Yeah.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Wherever you're joining us, morning, good afternoon. My name is Perenami Momodu, and I am the chairperson of the Agricultural Committee Committee of the NBA-SBL. Welcome to this week's NBA-SBL Business Weekly Series, hosted by the Agri Committee, of course. Our topic for today is infrastructure and technology, addressing challenges in the agricultural sector. We have put together a distinguished panel, whom my able moderator Joshua will introduce in a bit. I would also like to say that the Agri Committee, this is the first of an infrastructure series that the Agri Committee will be hosted. So, we hope that you will enjoy the session. We look forward to your comments or your questions at the end of the session. It's going to be an interactive session where Joshua will ask the questions and the panelists will answer. And if you do have any comments or questions, please feel free to drop them in the comment box. So I will hand over now to Joshua Daranijo, who will do his own introduction and introduce the panelists. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Paranami. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining this wonderful Thursday afternoon. On today's webinar, we'll be having two guests, speakers, and I'll have them introduce themselves, but I'll just ensure to, call their names and have them do a short introduction. First is Miss Ajoke Amusat. She's the founder and CEO of The Grocery Lady. It's an agro business, and I'd like to just give Miss Ajoke the floor to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. I don't know if everyone can hear me.
Mr. Ajoke, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you clearly.
All right. My name is Ajoke Hamzat. I'm the founder of what?
Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Ajoke Hamzat. I'm the founder of The Grocery Lady, one online farm produce store that emphasizes the quality of food consumed and eaten with the season. We work with smallholder farmers in the northern region of Nigeria to grow horticultural produce like strawberries, raspberries, fresh flowers. And our main focus is just growing food that tastes good and is good for your health and well-being. So we deliver these products to restaurants and consumers around Nigeria, basically. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Great to have you on today. Also on this webinar is our second speaker, Mr. Ibrahim Abdullah. He's the Managing Director and CEO at Nasara Investment and Development Agency. Mr. Ibrahim, could you give us just take a few minutes to introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Joshua, and good afternoon to everyone on this webinar. As I've been introduced, my name is Ibrahim Abdullahi. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Nasara Investment and Development Agency. Nasara Investment and Development Agency is a one-stop shop for doing business in Nasarawa State. Primarily responsible for investment promotion and facilitation, investment management, that's as a sub-national investment outfit, managing the investment of the state. And thirdly, we also work on enabling business environment. And we also function as the governor's delivery unit, spearheading the implementation of the Nasara Economic Development Strategy. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for that introduction. I am Joshua Danijo. I am the managing partner at Allen & Brooks, and I'll be our moderator for today. So let's get right into it. I'm just going to ask a couple of questions to our speakers, and then after the interactive session, we'll have questions from the audience. Let's start with Mr. Ibrahim. You had mentioned that you're in the government, you're in the government space, you're in the, the regulatory space. So let's just start by asking, from your experience so far, what policies and regulations has the government put in place or implemented to support technological advancements and infrastructural development in the agricultural sector? How is the government playing its role, based on your experience, sir?
Thank you very much.
Mr. Ibrahim, did you get the question?
Yes, okay. About policies being put in place. I think before we even talk about policies being put in place, it's very important to give some contextual background to the need for even the policies to advance the infrastructure and technology to promote agriculture. Agriculture is a major contributor to Nigeria's GDP, and by extension, these agricultural activities happen in states in the subnational. For Nasarawa is a predominantly agrarian state, but over the years and consistently, our people have only engaged in subsistence agriculture. So that is to say, for many years, we've not been able to advance to what we could even describe as the next level agriculture, to ramp up production and to ensure that, we actually provide for the domestic need and also then export. As government, what have we been able to put in place over the years to ensure that the needed infrastructure to support this drive to commercialize agriculture are provided? One is setting up a policy that provide incentives for people to go into agriculture as a business. That is increasing the attractiveness of agriculture even as a sector for people to go into. We developed the Nasarawa Economic Development Strategy, which became the policy document of our administration, really geared towards leveraging private sector capital and expertise to provide essential services and to revitalize the economy of the state. So one, we've put in place a very robust and ambitious policy that encourages private investment into the agriculture sector. We have also put in place incentives for businesses coming into the sector, especially in the state. But most importantly, we've set up institutional mechanisms like setting up the Nasarawa Investment and Development Agency as a one-stop shop, and also revamping and revitalizing sister agencies like the Nasarawa Agriculture Development Project, now Nasarawa Agriculture Development Agency, and also setting up our Ministry of Agriculture to respond to the market, i.e. now we have a Ministry of Agriculture that works in collaboration with the Ministry of Lands to ensure that sufficient lands are made available for investors who want to come into the sector, whether it is to set up a tech infrastructure capability or to do the actual farming, and also to encourage production. The other effort we've made as government is to support R&D, research and development. To this effect, the government has giving tremendous support to tertiary institutions like the College of Education. We even now have College of Agriculture and even the National State University, because only as we deepen research and development and encourage and help crowd in the necessary funding, would we increase the appetite for looking into the tech infrastructure that will enable agriculture. So our key role as government is to continue to be an enabler for more and more investors to invest in the agriculture value chain, be it the provision of the ancillary infrastructure that enables agriculture, and also supporting the actual production, whether it's in crop production, fishing, or other aspects of agriculture.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Ibrahim. I see you talked about research and development, and that's a very key sector, because it's not just for us to keep, pumping in resources into infrastructure. We need to figure out what we're doing right and what we're not doing right. Thank you so much for that. Let's have a question for Ms. Ajoke. From your experience as a player in the sector, you're involved in the day-to-day as an agribusiness owner. What do you think are the challenges that business owners like you are facing with regards to mechanized farming and adopting technology in your operations? Ms. Ajoke.
Yeah. So for us at the Grocery Lady, we work with smallholder farmers, and these farmers grow on, I think, minimum of like 5 hectares farmland. And for us, they grow using, what do they call it? We have workers that work on the farm, and I don't know if I am audible.
You're
audible. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I am. Okay. So one of the major challenges.
We can hear you. You're muted. Please go on. Please go on.
All right. One of the major challenges that our farmers face is getting these machines, bringing them into the country, and also operating them. So for us, we try to get our farmers to use mechanized machines for their harvesting, for watering their plants and other things. But one of their major fear and challenges is the cost of running these machines, the cost of buying these machines, and the cost of operating it and maintaining it. So in our own experience working with farmers for over 5 years now, I would say the challenge is the fear from the farmers and the lack of information, because a lot of farmers believe that what they have right now is currently working for them. So why do they have to use machines? And also, if we start bringing in machines on the farm, then they have to let go of the workers that have been working with them for over 10 years now, more than that. So in our own experience, trying to get farmers to adopt mechanized method of farming, we need to educate them. We need to let them see that, okay, these machines actually work, and you need them to increase production. So we tried our best to bring in machines. We tried our best to show them that, okay, this is what you need. So for example, let me give an example, strawberry farming. When it comes to harvesting, we use over 50 women just to harvest, let's just say 500 kilograms of strawberries. And it takes them 2 hours just to do this, sometimes 3 hours. And we know that there are better ways to do this and faster ways to do this. And we know that we need machines to do this. But our farmers are not willing to change their system, because if we get machines, all these women will not have jobs. So these are things we need to consider when it comes to mechanized farming. Yes, it saves time, it's cost effective and everything, but the human factor is also there, and there's also the fear factor from farmers. So a lot of smallholder farmers that we work with, as they increase their production, because there's a huge demand for strawberries in Nigeria right now, so we have to keep increasing production. So as we increase production, we also realized that we also have to change the farming method. So a lot of our farmers do not want to change, because when we change the operating system, it's going to mean a lot of people will lose their job. So this is one of our challenges. We're trying to convince them, we're trying to educate them. We are trying to let them see that, okay, this is working with this country. This country is currently doing it this way. You also need to do it this way. But I think I would just say fear, lack of information, and the high cost of running these machines, also maintenance. So a lot of this mechanized machines that we need on the farm, we don't have, so this is another area that we don't have in agriculture. We don't have mechanics for these machines. So we don't have people that are dedicated to maintaining them when they break down. For example, what would I say now? Tractors. When you bring in a tractor and the tractor gets spoiled, who do you call to fix it? You can't call a regular mechanic that operates on the road. You have to call someone that knows what to use to fix the tractor. So these are one of the major problems that we have when we try to switch to mechanized method of farming. So just to summarize, all our farmers are used to the current system, and change is what they are scared of, because the farm keeps growing, but they are scared of change. They are scared of losing their workers, because if we switch to total mechanized farming for operations on the farm, that means 50 women will be out of jobs. Lots of men will also lose their jobs. So these are one of the challenges that we're currently facing in the agric industry in northern Nigeria in Jos right now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joke. Thank you very much, Mr. Joke. I understand where you're coming from. It's a delicate dance.
It is. It's very, very delicate.
And they're concerned that if, they adopt more technology, there is a chance that, there will not be food for them. There will not
There's also the human
be
factor.
need for them. So it's a case of machines versus humans. And I understand
there's
that.
There's also the human factor. So for us, when the women are harvesting this product, they know what to look out for. They know what is ready for harvest. They know what is not ready for harvest. They know what is ripe. They know what is not ripe. So we have to let them know that, okay, these machines can take over the role of the human factor. They can, what we call quality control in agriculture. So we need to guarantee that these machines that we're bringing in for you can do the quality control. They can determine that, oh, this strawberry is ripe, this strawberry is not ripe, not just picking up everything from the, I don't know if you understand how strawberry farming works, not just like picking up everything and saying and dumping it in one place. So that's one of the major challenges that we have. So we need to, it's like human versus machine right now. And we need to let them know that, yeah, machine works better and faster.
So I understand where you're coming from, but let's just address another question. Yes, technology might not be able to advance on the farm, but let's talk about supply chain. Because at the very least, we should be able to adopt more technology and mechanization in that supply chain logistics. What do you think are the components for a successful supply chain system for agribusiness, Mrs. Ajoke?
The components of a supply chain system is okay. Yeah.
Yes. So how can we ensure more, successful? Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yes. So we've not eliminated the machine on the farm. We have some of our farmers use irrigation farming to water their plants. So right now, with a touch of a button, you can water every part of the farm. So in the past, before I came in, they used to use I don't know how you watering the plants manually, one by one, bending down. But now they have like pipes that just go straight, and you just click a machine and it just waters everything. So that's one technology that is currently working for us right now. And when it comes to supply chain logistics, from the harvest to packaging to shipping to getting to the final consumer or to the companies that we supply, there's like a chain of communication from quality control to packaging. So there's like a chain, and there's a lot of processes and lots of technology that is involved that we're also like getting the farmers to also get involved with. So when a product is ready for harvest, we get like updates and all that. So it's technology also is working for us, but it's not just working fast. So we're taking it step by step because they, like I said before, we need to educate these people. So it's not just take, use, it's step by step. They need to get accustomed to it, they need to learn, and they need to get comfortable with it. So we're just taking it step by step with them.
Thank you very much for that. Let's head back to Mr. Ibrahim. The president of the African Development Bank was quoted last year to say that 100 tons of cargo exporting from Nigeria cost us about $30,000 to export just 100 tons of cargo out of Nigeria, compared to just about $5,000 in Ghana. So even cost of exportation is too high. How can government play a more significant role in addressing the challenges of supply chain logistics, storage, and export in agriculture?
Well, it's definitely in policy regulation, which speaks to ease of doing business initiatives. There's a presidential ease of doing business initiative that's actively being spearheaded at the vice president's office. It has recorded some success, but I think more needs to be done. This is, primarily the role that government must do and will continue to do is to give out waivers on permits and so on, just so that it becomes much easier for businesses to, agri-businesses to actually produce, process, and even export to earn foreign exchange. I agree that it is increasingly becoming difficult to navigate the space, but this is something that both federal government and state government must collaborate. We have our own local ease of doing business initiative to unblock all the barriers to doing business in our state, but we do not have control of the federal institutions. So we also continue to advocate, because ultimately that's the barrier to entry before anyone wants to do. If you're producing in Nasarawa, for instance, no matter how favorable the local laws are, you need to take it, for instance, if you want to take it outside of the country, or you're bringing in your implement, or you're importing, like, you will still face these regulatory hurdles that are federal controlled. So I see the role that the government must continue to play as unblocking these barriers, ensuring that more eyes are put, so that the policies we put in place are also being implemented at even desk levels, just so that ease of doing business is not just at policy, or it's not just all talk and no action, that we follow it up with some monitoring and evaluation mechanism as well, so that people find it easy to navigate our business landscape. Just looking at agriculture as a business, I think that again, also working with development finance institutions and other development, agriculture development institutions, to provide other incentives, not just policy and regulatory incentives. Just also to speak a little bit about input, use of technological inputs in farming. Apart from the issue of access, apart from the issue of the technical know-how for local farmers, there's also a big issue around access. These implements are expensive. We've looked at initiatives to see how farmers can have access to these implements at considerably maybe lower rates or a sustainable financing plan. Truth of the matter is there isn't enough funding for us, even as states, to implement these initiatives. But I think that the organized private sector, especially financial institutions, can begin to look at innovative ways to provide this tech infrastructure to local farmers, but have some kind of arrangement that will allow these farmers to be able to afford these implements in a very sustainable long-term manner.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate the comment on trying to ensure that there is more access, as you rightly said, beyond technical know-how. There's even the issue of access, and just like Ms. Ajoke said earlier, there's even the issue of training, because not just for farmers to be trained to use, but even farmers to be trained to maintain. That if a tractor, mechanized tractor falls on the farm, who maintains it, who ensures that they're in good condition? All these are very important issues that need to be addressed. So training goes beyond just the farmers to even the technical team that helps with running such devices. I think another question that we would like to ask you, sir, is what kind of initiatives do you propose? So you said some that, Nasarawa State is already running, but you had mentioned looking at what Dr. Oduole and PEBEC are trying to achieve on the national scale. What kind of initiatives would you recommend that, the federal government looks to provide to encourage agribusiness that can encourage adoption of modern technology and its infrastructure in farming and agriculture?
Yeah. So one, we need all the incentive. We need government to provide all the incentives to companies to come and set up production capability in the country. We need this machinery, but we don't have access to them. We're not producing them, because we're not producing them, it becomes very expensive for farmers to access. So a government needs to provide incentives for investors to come and set up production capability around the country, especially in agrarian areas of the country. We also should support a fund to provide cheap capital to real farmers, and this should be in collaboration with subnational state governments that have real access to real farmers that are engaged in real agricultural activities. And thirdly, we must continue to unblock the barriers to doing business. Part of the barriers, there's also the availability of land. We must be able to sit down and handhold investors that really want to go into commercial agriculture. There is the intent. I see that there's a big appetite in the market for big commercial agriculture, but there isn't, land is not easily, readily available. So state governments should lead the way in playing a hand-holding role to ensure that investors have access to the land to engage in commercial agriculture. That's one of the initiatives we have in Nasarawa State, where we do government-backed acquisitions to help investors navigate through the difficult terrain of just acquisition for large-scale agriculture. Another important initiative that's coming upstream that I think all states should support in the country and should key into is the Special Agro-Processing Zone, the SAPZ, that's supported by the Africa Development Bank. It is a game changer because it helps to provide the much needed infrastructure to support farming by the establishment of agricultural transformation centers, ensuring that we provide ready market for farmers who farm in local areas. So it's a full circle range of initiatives, but I think that our attitude as an ecosystem must change, and really to look at agriculture as a much serious business that everyone within the ecosystem can benefit, lawyers inclusive. You see a lot of lawyers say they're oil and gas lawyers. You hardly find anyone who would want to even identify as I'm an agriculture lawyer. But there lies in the opportunities, and I think that we can form a community of practice together with us as government to ensure that we change our tone and how we also approach agriculture.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim. You can be rest assured here at the SBL, we have agricultural lawyers. We even have a subcommittee for that purpose. And just as you rightly said, availability of land is very, very important. I mean, we can't talk about agriculture without land. I'd just like to, piggyback on that. What about access to finance? Because even here at the SBL, we have been asking ourselves, even with the drive and provision of land, access to finance has become one of the biggest issues. How do you think government can assist? I know it's a collaborative effort, private-public partnerships, the private sector needs to get involved, but how do you think access to finance can be addressed from a government's perspective? No, did you get that? I think you're muted. Yes, you are muted.
Okay. Okay, so that's a difficult one in the sense that because we're not a financial institution, we're not a bank, but so a policy is a big issue, right? So the policies that we put in place as government will set the tone, both from a financing point of view and also from the production point of view that we advocate. I know that we have the Bank of Agriculture, and most recently, the President Tinubu administration is kicking off the Agriculture Fund. So this also needs to trickle down to states, right? Because access is also an issue. Once we continue to encourage initiatives like this, the financial institutions will also take a cue. But in real sense, Joshua, it's about for financial institutions, it's about bankability, right? And the feasibility of the proposals that farmers tend to give to get financing. So that's why I'm saying it's an approach issue. Whilst we'll continue to formulate policies that ensures that people have access to finance, or financial institutions provide cheaper capital, we also need to step back. Perhaps maybe lawyers can help with that as well, in how we do project preparation, and just look at the need for access to finance from a strictly commercial standpoint. Because as much as we want to encourage access to finance, we will not stampede financial institutions from doing their business. They also need to stay profitable, and they can only lend to projects that are bankable. So it's a very dicey place to put government but we'll continue to do our bit, create the funds. Even if we create the funds, for instance, you'd realize that at the core of sustaining these funds is the need to be competitive and commercially viable.
Thank you so much for that. That was a brilliant response. I agree with you perfectly. So just like Ms. Ajoke had mentioned earlier, it's also a delicate dance. You can't just keep pumping money into something that is not profitable. So you're very, very much right about that. The private sector still needs to play their role in making sure that we are doing the right due diligence to ensure these are businesses that are viable. Over to you, Ms. Ajoke. I hope you can hear me now. Are you with us, Ms. Ajoke?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Still going back to what we were discussing earlier with regards to storage and warehousing, how have you managed to maintain the quality of your products and minimize losses? Because as we see, any little issue, whether it's climate change or just even, from my experience, agriculture is very volatile. Any small issue can lead to reduction in produce and, what's crops, the number of crops you're able to harvest. So how have you been able to maintain the quality of produce and minimize losses with regards to storage and warehousing?
So for us, we've had to learn over time that we need to switch into processing. So whenever we have like excess produce, what we do is we freeze these products or turn them into jam, process them into jams and marmalades, or dehydrate them. So when we freeze certain fruits, we're able to have them available all year round for companies and consumers that need them. So for us, the way we've been able to manage post-harvest loss is to process into frozen products, turn them into jams and marmalades, dehydrate them for different recipes and for different use. So that's how we've been able to manage storage and in our own.
So you talk about dried fruits. I mean, what about fruits that need to remain fresh? Any ideas so far? I mean, that's your experience, but what would you advise the pepper seller or the fish farmer? How would they best approach warehousing and storage where they can't dry their produce?
So the good thing is that right now there are lots of cold storage centers in many cities. You find them in Lagos, close to the airport. You find them in Jos also. So we have people that have set up cold storage centers where people that have pepper and other perishable products can go there and store their products, but they have to pay a certain amount of money, and they are charged. According to how long they store their products there. So I think there are lots of businesses now that are turning into providing the service of cold storage for market women. And
you're very right about that. I know of a few of them that now run what they consider to be CAS, cooling as a service. So some of them even also involve themselves in mobility. So it's good to see people are getting in that sector, providing that service.
So we have a farmers market, and in this farmers market, there's a company called Eco22 or Eco22. So they have a code. Yes, they have a code or storage inside the farmers market. So when these farmers cannot sell their products, they either give it to us for us to freeze or whatever. Or if they still need to sell it the next day, then they give it to the people at Eco22 to help them store it for the next day. But when we come in is when you just realize that, okay, I cannot sell this product. So there are certain perishable products that cannot be stored for a long time, like raspberries are very, very delicate. Broccoli, very, very delicate. So that's where we come in, and we have to freeze this product for them. And that's where we come in. But there are also other people that also come in when it comes to, you just want to store your products for maybe 12 hours, 24 hours, that's fine. There are like people there for that. But when you need to store them long-term for a whole year, for 2 years, that's where we come in for farmers in our own industry. So we freeze them, we dehydrate them, we turn them into jams and marmalades, we turn them into frozen vegetables for consumers to use.
Okay, So the major question I'm going to ask both speakers, and I'll start with you, Ma, is what are the opportunities for collaboration? So this is not a debate. We have been able to look at it from the angle of the private owner, business owner, and the government. But where can we meet? Where's the meeting point? What do you think as a business, agri-business owner, are the, the points of, collaboration and partnership with governments? And how do you think we can foster growth in the agricultural sector? Over to you, Ma.
I have a lot to say when it comes to this question. I've been waiting for you to ask this question. That's a very, very good question. I would say the government needs to invest in logistics for cargo produce, specifically for cargo produce. So, okay, I'm going to give an example. During what do they call this thing? COVID, we lost a lot of money during COVID. Because the government said we should send our products by road, essential produce, send it by road. But the road was blocked and there was no other channel during COVID. So if our railway line was working, that would have been a perfect place for us to send produce. So a lot of our produce got wasted and people in other states did not have access to food because the road was blocked during that time. So I was really hoping that during COVID, maybe the government would have figured out, okay, railway line, railway cargo produce, just a train dedicated to just fresh produce going from the north to the south to the west. The road, just leave the road for individuals to ply, but for us, essential produce, give us the railway line. Let's use that to move our produce from wherever, from the north down to the south, down to the west. And I believe like this is where the government can come in. Also, subsidy when it comes to cargo and logistics. There's a video going around right now about how people are spending 2 million naira to just move produce in their trucks from the north, that's from just here, down to the west. So if that's a lot of money, and if they're spending that much money on transportation, it's going to affect the cost of produce. And that's what we're currently seeing now. Every week, the cost of produce keeps going higher and higher and higher. It's going to keep happening because the money we're spending to transport produce by road is so expensive. And the money we're spending to transport produce by air also, it is very, very expensive. And the more money we spend, the more the food that you're buying will be expensive. Because if I'm spending 2 million naira just to transport food to you, we have to make that money back. We have to add the cost into the cost of food that you're buying in the market. So the people that are going to suffer this are the consumers. So I believe the government can come in by creating a railway cargo line and also subsidizing cost of transportation and logistics.
Thank you very much for that. Before I let Mr. Ibrahim respond, I would like to also mention that you're very right about the logistics. It's really one of the biggest issues generally in business, even much more agriculture. And it's good to see that at the very least, there's the freight train that's been implemented across some of the states where we now have railway access. It's just that it has not become fully operational. But I know, for example, the freight...
Especially in the north.
In the north, it hasn't become operational. A lot of the northern states are still left out. But I know Ibadan to Lagos freight train cargo is about to become operational maybe next year. So I believe that over the next few years, we'll see it extend to the northern parts of Nigeria, where we need it even the most. Thank you so much. Mr. Ibrahim, would you like to respond to the same question? How can we collaborate as the...
Yeah.
Yes.
So of course, government must collaborate. And how do we best collaborate? Through public-private partnerships. Agriculture, industrial infrastructure are very, very important for the growth of the agriculture sector and to improve the market. But the truth of the matter is that government does not have the kind of capital to provide that infrastructure. There's a huge infrastructure deficit, and we alone cannot fund that infrastructure gap. So what do? We're looking to the private sector to partner. If the private sector can look at it even from an enlightened self-interest, because they are the drivers of production within the sector. How much more if they can partner with us to provide the capital and we provide the requisite incentives to ensure that we build this infrastructure so that we have a win-win situation where the infrastructure is provided and it also acts as a major enabler for agriculture business across the country. So we're really looking to the private sector to drive the financing of this much needed industrial infrastructure. We're also beyond the infrastructure bit, also even in agriculture initiatives, there are opportunities to partner with the government. I like to give real scenarios. There is a project, a major agriculture project in Nasarawa State that is a product of a PPP, which is the Nasarawa Nasarawa Agro Commodity Company called NASACO. NASACO is a joint venture with a private investor to go into the full gamut production, aggregation, processing, and research and development. So it's an initiative that we think the rest of the states can copy and see like how really government can bring in private sector, provide much needed handholding and confidence to ensure that, you know, we just do something, even if it serves as a market demonstration project, then we'll be able to get more people or even private sector on their own to invest more money into these sort of initiatives. But really, the key to achieving dramatic progress within a short period of time is a public-private partnership to provide the much needed infrastructure to improve access and to revitalize our local economies.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have had a very, very, very interesting session. So I'm just going to run through the questions that have been posted and see which ones we could ask our speakers before we round off today's session. You know, I believe one of the major issues, and I had addressed it earlier with Mr. Joke, one of the major issues we're facing right now that implements agriculture is climate change. So, you know, any of the speakers can answer. How can we really, you know, create safety net programs to prevent or plan for climate change displacement in the agricultural sector? Which of the speakers would like to speak, or should I, you know, recommend someone? Mr. Joke, would you like to go? How has climate change affected?
What's been your... Mr. Ibrahim should answer this question. I'd like to hear his...
Okay, Mr. Ibrahim, what would you like to say about this?
Well, so climate change is a big issue. We know that it has now become a very big policy issue. It's a key consideration for projects that we do. ESG is now a thing even within you know, our planning stage for our policies. And it must also be factored. So again, we must be able to, as government, support climate smart infrastructure within the agriculture space, provide incentives to farmers or investors that are doing more climate-friendly activities within the agriculture space, and to discourage activities within the sector that continue to pose threats to the environment, not to pay lip service to it. And I'm sure Mr. Joke will attest to the fact that government over the past few years has really come out boldly to say that climate change is such a serious issue. Perhaps maybe it's the private sector that will say, no, it's an expensive endeavor, or, the shift will be so dramatic. How do we solve for the other risks? Who's going to finance it all the way? But again, the climate smart funds available to people like yourselves who want to, drive this process. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Another question, and I would address this to Mr. Joke. How do you address the issue of pest control, and how do you, ensure that there's that balance between not poisoning the produce and protecting them from pests? It's a very, very important question. Pest control.
It is. So for us at the Grocery Lady, before we came in, a lot of farmers used to just spray their produce with chemicals. And when we came in, we realized that a lot of food that is being sold out there are not safe to be consumed. A lot of produce are harvested prematurely. So we had to do our best to educate farmers and work with them on the best way to control pests without using chemicals. Now, one of the things I tell people is that when you buy food and maybe you've been buying a certain product for a long time and you've never come across a single insect, you buy a fresh produce, let's just say you buy a fortete, and you've never seen maybe a single bug on it, then you need to question how that produce is grown. Because people don't understand that if you buy a leafy green and there's holes on it, it means that that produce is grown without chemicals. It means that pests visited. So it's very important for people to also do their due diligence when buying certain products. So for us, the way we've been able to deal with pests is we've had to use natural method. Now, I don't know how people react to this, but we use rabbit urine to curb pests. So as opposed to using harmful chemicals, rabbit urine is what we use to not kill the pests, but just let them move somewhere else. So it's like when we spray the rabbit urine on the produce, the pests see it as pepper and they just run away from it. So we're not killing them, we're just using a safer method to just push them away from our crops. So there are other things we also use neem oil and neem products for pest control. So there are just so many methods that we use to control pests. Then we also use in the greenhouse, we usually have issues of fruit fly. So another way we've been able to chase fruit fly away from the greenhouse is to use coconut shells, and then there's this thing they call sawdust. We put it in the coconut shell. So there are different methods that we've had to come up with to deter pests and to chase them away. So we've had to use natural methods, use the things around us. Ginger and garlic also works. When you have a farm produce, just plant garlic and ginger around the farm, like in the middle of the plants, and this will also chase them away. Pepper also works. So all our farmers have had to realize that they can use certain products to chase away pests and to control them. So if they are going a certain product, just put like ginger, garlic in the middle of it, or pepper like shombo, tatashe in the middle of it, and this will chase away their crops. And if the insects are very persistent, or if they have become immune to the pepper, you can use rabbit urine. So rabbit urine right now is hot commodity in the agric industry. A lot of people are growing rabbits and yes, getting their urine and using that and selling that to farmers. It works, it really works. So that's another industry that people are getting in. So you don't have to, so another thing is that you don't have to plant. You don't have to be a farmer, plant. There are other ways you can get into, you can be a part of the agric industry. Like rearing rabbits and extracting their urine and selling it to farmers is another business idea for people out there. So that's how we've been able to control pests using natural methods, using the things around us, and using other plants.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ajoke. I think I've taken taking note of 3 things. I have to wash my vegetables very well, and I shouldn't be scared to see a few holes. It's proof that it was not, it's organically grown. And lastly, make some, money on this side also, because rabbits are all over Lagos. Thank you so much, Mr. Joke and Mr. Ibrahim. It was wonderful having you. We have run out of time, so I'll just hand over to Perenami, the chair of our subcommittee on agriculture. Perenami, over to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm here. Thank you very much, Joshua. Thank you for anchoring that. And a big thank you to Ms. Amosat and Mr. Ibrahim. Thank you very much. I mean, I know that in our agri committee, we do have farmers. Aside from having agri lawyers, we also have those who are actually in the agribusiness. So thank you. And I know that there were lots of tips that people got even from this call. The rabbit urine was quite insightful. Thank you very much. And I would like to say to our listeners today that, like, as I said in the beginning, this is the first of our infrastructure series, being hosted by the Agri Committee, and we've only just scratched the surface. There's still so much to talk about. There's so much to address. So we will ensure that we'll keep it up, because as we've identified here, there's a lot to be done in terms of infrastructure, in terms of developing the agricultural value chain in Nigeria. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you to the SBL chair who stayed all through. Thank you very much. Thank you to the technical team who set up the meeting. And we hope to see you some other time. Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Sure. Thanks for having us. Thank you.